So let's think about some, potential use cases. I think enterprise is increasingly one that I think is suited fairly well to Polkadot. Now, the idea behind this sort of enterprise use case is that we might see enterprises want to introduce blockchains within their own internal systems in order to facilitate, a greater amount of information sharing within a potentially very sprawling multinational corporate environment, or under consortiums of enterprises where they want to facilitate in cooperation, interaction, coordination, and data sharing between these different otherwise kind of walled gardens that are each one's corporate entity. This is remarkably easier with a blockchain system because each of the corporate players, each of these individuals, don't need to trust the other individuals. They don't need to name a particular central party to maintain these IT systems. The fact that they are, or at least the majority, are being maintained is enough for the IT system, for the blockchain, to function perfectly well. This works very well within a consortium environment, and we've already seen some consortium blockchains being deployed, such as the Energy Web Foundation chain, that really do facilitate these industry-wide use cases, where we see blockchain-based applications be deployed within an industry that allow each of the participants to benefit. But the next stage of this is to allow the inter-consortia chains, essentially to bring these consortium chains together and to connect them both between with other consortia and with potentially internal chains existing within enterprises, possibly within the consortium or outside, and to public chains like Ethereum, like Bitcoin potentially, like things deployed on substrate chains, on various other potentially parachains. This will be a key innovation. This will change how we think about blockchains, and it will change particularly how enterprises think about blockchains. At this point, enterprises are starting to dip their toes in the water. They're starting to play around and even deploy internal chains or chains that coordinate, as I say, within the consortium. Once it's clear what their value proposition is to the various sort of decision makers within an enterprise, then we'll see an increasing level of willingness to play further, to deploy more and more systems. And when we get to the point that there's enough utility happening on these systems, it will not be long before somebody realizes, wouldn't it be good to connect these two systems so that one can use the resources of the other, or they can provide services between themselves? And this will be the beginning of what we might call the sort of Internet of Blockchains world. This will be the beginning of connecting together these otherwise still relatively walled gardens into a much more global, common marketplace for data, decision-making, and financial, economically strong services.